Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Look at that. It's a new look here at Fight Night Picks. We're getting set for the first fight on this card. This one at flyweight. Ode. If you got a call for it, it's not that great, but this is an Ode Osbourne card. It's not a Conor McGregor card, and he's taking on Kazakhstan's Asu Almabaev. And you might see Asu Almabaev's name spelled all sorts of different ways. When he was with Brave, when he was with the different promotions, it was spelled the way that I have it there on screen. With the UFC, they're going ASSU. Almabayev with a Y hidden in there. So look out for that when you are looking for his fights, but an absolute pleasure to watch. And when you consider Almabayev's fights and you go looking for them, you might sit there and scratch your head. You might think, hey, is this deja vu? This is Groundhog Day? Didn't I already see a guy out of Kazakhstan at flyweight with a crazy record debut recently? Yeah, you're not wrong, and you're not in a dream. Asu Almabaev following in the footsteps of a big-time fighter, and we did have recently a fight where Tyson Am loses by split decision, and it was a crazy controversy in that one. But if you look at that, he was taking on Azat Maxim, the undefeated Kazakhstan fighter, 16-0, the champ with Octagon, and that's not the one that's up at the World MMA Awards for top promotion. It's spelled with a C and not a K. But if you look at both of these guys, Almabaev, you've got fighters out of Kazakhstan just absolutely at the forefront of MMA, and Almabaev's been in the corner of Shavkat Rakhmonov, but not unlike Azat Maxim, I mean, taking on a similar level of competition. Not to mention as well, Tyson Am had that crazy win over Ode Osbourne. Tyson Am in the UFC at the time was 3-4. Ode Osbourne in this fight 4-3. So 7 fights worth of experience to make your debut. But for Asu Almabaev, former M1 Global interim flyweight champ, he had that win over Chris Kalades. I mean, a guy at Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia. You were always cheering for him. He had a cup of coffee over with Bellator, some time in the UFC as well. A big upset win over Paddy Holohan way back in the day. Almabaev got it done there. He's on a very impressive win streak, and we can really kind of go over that when we have a look at it. Out at Killcliff FC, kind of cross-training there. Again, spending time with Shavkat Rakhmonov. We saw him corner him in the UFC, but also Nick Lentz, the coach there, and so on and so forth. Shumagulov spent time there as well. Lord Nikon worried about weight missing, though, on this one. Possibly with Ode Osbourne, Raw Torque saying Ode, and Chef Chris saying Asu. But when you do consider a fight like this, for Asu Almabaev, before you come into the UFC, if you take it on the level of competition like he has, it kind of makes you perk up a little bit. And there's a lot of fights that you can go back and watch. They're very readily available for Almabaev. I mean, you went 2-1 with AMC Fight Nights Global, 3-0 with M1, ended up as their interim flyweight champ, and we were all excited when the UFC and M1 kind of started to merge. And you had those big M1 champs coming over. You had guys like Movsar Evloev. You had Sergey Morozov. You had, who else? Nate Landwehr was a champ over there. And it just continued and continued. Shavkat Rakhmonov. Almabaev didn't get the call, but Alexander Daskalchuk did get the call. And he was due a couple of different fights in the UFC. One against Tagir Ulanbekov, one against Malcolm Gordon. They didn't happen. So you had a really long layoff for Daskalchuk, who was that guy at 125 with M1 Global. And who does he fight with Brave CF? It was like a unification of the belts from their time with M1 Global. He fights Asu Almabaev, and you see an early takedown attempt from Daskalchuk, a guy I thought really high of when he fought with M1. Almabaev pulls guillotine once, pulls guillotine twice. It looks so tight, it looks like it's over. Almabaev scrambles out of position. He gets back up. He gets the takedowns, and he submits Alexander Daskalchuk. And listen, no odds, no this, no that, but it was a giant upset, and that was the 2021 Brave CF Breakthrough Fighter of the Year was Almabaev. He also won Submission of the Year for that win. So when you do look at both these guys and their skill sets, I already mentioned Ode Osbourne. Listen, he's had 7 fights inside of the UFC. The debut was against Brian Kelleher. It didn't necessarily go his way. But the thing that I found really interesting when I did the research on Ode Osbourne, performance of the night bonus over Zaruk Adashev, you know that the power's there. He's a tricky sidewinder as it stands. And Almabaev's fought a southpaw not that long ago, another UFC vet, in fun size Zach Makovsky, and he wins that fight by split decision. But the reason I bring that fight up is southpaw and southpaw, it can be tricky for some of these orthodox fighters like Almabaev. And Almabaev's one of those guys that aim big, miss big, and if he's not able to get his striking going, he leaves himself wide open for the counters. Makovsky was very successful with the striking. However, for Almabaev, it really is his takedowns that butter his bread. So if you do consider it for a guy like Ode Osbourne, I mean, the strike numbers, they kind of are what they are bars so far in the UFC. It is a negative strike differential, 4.31 to 4.63 absorbed per minute for Osbourne. 46% striking defense. It's not the crispest. And if you look at it, 72% takedown defense for Ode Osbourne. So some decent numbers there. The one thing that I found really funny on the stat sheet, if you're considering it for a guy like Almabaev, I mean, look at this. One of his opponents that he had taken on the last time out, Almabaev was supposed to headline Brave CF 66. They don't actually have it on his Tapology page, but that fight fell out. He's supposed to take on an awesome fighter out of the Kingdom of Bahrain. That fight, again, did not happen. So they end up putting him up against Magnat. And you can find that fight out there on YouTube. Look at this guy's record. Absolute jobber out of the Philippines. A couple of those little exclamation marks because those fights not really all that legit. So a little odd there, but obviously a really good pedigree for Almabayev. The wrestling is intense. He does take long shots. He does kind of ride on the knees, but he typically gets the job done that way. So I think this is going to be a really, really good fight. Again, a good litmus test for a guy in Almabayev to make his debut against an established veteran in Ode Osbourne, who his last time out got the split decision win over Charles Johnson. Not a lot of controversy on that. Majority thought that Osbourne got the win in the matchup. But if you do consider this, Almabayev is the slight favorite in the matchup. You and I, you're out there, you're listening in the car, maybe you're on the plane, maybe you're watching here on YouTube. We have a look at the Tapology votes. 1,747 total votes, 76% going with Almabayev. I have Almabayev in the matchup, but again, I think this is going to be an awesome fight. And listen, you could say collusion, but I did ask Matt earlier on today. He is on that big-time European swing of a vacation. Who he had in the fight, and he has Asu Almabaev in this one as well. So both of us at Fight Night Picks going with Kazakhstan's Almabaev to get the win. I think the wrestling's going to be great, but again, watch out, because he leaves himself out there to get countered, as did Azat Maxim. It nearly cost him against Tyson Nam. Majority thought that Tyson Nam won that fight, and then it was all over. So I think this is going to be a great one, but let us know down below in the comments section who you have. The next matchup on the card, I mean, listen, Sean Woodson's had a hard time to get fights, and he's taking on Denis Buzukja. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, and as we always say, let's get into it.